If you have been around any corner of the fragrance community, you have probably heard any of these 10 or all of these 10 fragrances brought up at some point or another. Whether they're ones that are talked about all the time or just tossed out there briefly, these are 10 that, in my opinion, every guy should smell. At least if you have any sort of interest in this hobby, it would be a good idea to get your nose on these, try them out. Maybe you'll really end up liking them, or maybe you can write them off early so you know not to waste your time buying them right now, and especially your money. Personally, these are all amazing to me, and that's why they made this video in particular. Maybe there's some others out there that get talked about all the time that you should try, but if I don't like them, they're not going to be immediately coming to my mind. So these are 10 that I give my stamp of approval from. So no matter what that means to you, if you have a similar taste to me, these might be a great fit for you as well. I think these are great in their own right. Pretty good variety here, so we're going to go over all of these today. I will drop links to these down below to discounters. Some of these might be a little bit tough to pick up anymore. The supply chain is so bizarre, especially here in US, Canada. A lot of things can be a little bit more exclusive and hard to get. You know, you can't just snap your fingers and have it on your doorstep 2 days, Amazon Prime style with some things. Some are a little bit more exclusive and tend to be a little bit more hard to find overall. So if you are on the hunt for anything rare, discontinued, and just hard to get into your collection, if you sign up at my mailing list at the first link down below, anytime something like that does come into stock, your Stronger With You Absolutely, DIOR Fahrenheit Parfums, your The One Luminous Nights, La Nuit de l'Homme Bleu Electrique, DIOR Homme Parfum, things of that nature, I send out an email each time something like that comes in stock. Even brand new releases. Sometimes brand new releases will hit discounters pretty quick for a price below retail, and when that does happen, I also send out a notification as well. Creed Royal Oud is one of my favorites from Creed. It's not one that you hear talked about nearly as much as the very obvious Aventus, Millesime Imperial, Silver Mountain Water, you know, even things like Viking. Royal Oud is one that is pretty easily slept on. It's not completely underrated. Most know about it, but are you actually wearing this? And do you own a bottle? I would say when you stack this up against a lot of the others, the answer a lot of times is going to be no. I don't think as many people have a bottle of this as they would some of the other big heavy hitters. And Green Irish Tweed was one that I left out there as well. Those are the ones that people are really focusing on. This one's got cedarwood, pink pepper, sandalwood, and a little bit of oud. Believe it or not, the oud is one of the lesser prominent notes, which you would think would be the opposite, but it's really nothing to be too concerned about with this. It's not hard to pull off. It's not your typical niche level oud. It's very wearable, very easy to get along with. You don't have to really be a fan of oud to like this, which sounds kind of strange, but it's the truth. I've had this for a long time now, and back when I first got it, I was not into oud in the slightest, but I still loved it then, and I love it now. If you want a nice, classy, woody scent that's great for the cooler months of the year, you have a little bit more money to spend, you want something luxurious and just high-end and expensive smelling, this is one of the main offerings from Creed that I would actually recommend picking up in 2023. Speaking of Fahrenheit Parfum, we have DIOR Fahrenheit Parfum. So this is one of those deals where I don't want to say it's discontinued because I don't think it is. I just don't have that feeling that it is. You can usually tell just based off of the way that it comes into stock on discounters. And again, I track this stuff every day, all day long. Weekends, holidays, whatever. I'm looking at discounters. I'm trying to find all the deals. And so you can tell when something's discontinued. You can tell when something is just a little bit limited, limited availability and exclusive where, not nearly as much of it gets shipped into these parts. And I think that's kind of where this one falls. Kind of similar to something like a Stronger With You, absolutely, that sort of thing. They're just ones that are just very limited, in the US and Canada area. But this is one that I highly recommend you get your nose on. If you buy a sample of it for a good price, great way to go. You could get a pretty good sized decant, hopefully for an okay price. I don't know for sure, but if you could, that would be great. And the decant could get you by for quite a while if you don't wear it too heavily or too often. If you can get your hands on a bottle for, again, a good price, also one where I would say do it. If you have the opportunity to buy it, buy it. If you don't like it, worst case, you sell it for what you paid for it, even after being opened and sprayed, because this stuff is in high demand. You really can't go wrong. It's a boozy, rum, suede, leathery take on the original Fahrenheit DNA. To me, this is one of the best works of the entire line. Worth having around and even worth getting a backup bottle of. Next up, Givenchy Gentleman Eau de Parfum Reserve Privé, one of the newer releases here from the line and one of the better ones, one of the best ones, if I say so. You know, the Eau de Parfum has always been one of my favorites of the entire line. This one just might take over. In fact, I think it might have already. It has the same note breakdown, so, you know, the iris, that kind of chocolatey feel, the tonka bean, but the addition of the chestnut and the whiskey set this one over the edge, makes it a little bit more gourmand, gives it a little bit of a bright, boozy kick, smells completely gorgeous. It's amazing. You can sometimes get this one on discounters. It usually does sell out relatively quickly, though. It's not consistent like the other Gentleman's just yet. Sure, it will be at some point, but even full retail price, I think, is more than reasonable for this one, just given what it all has to offer. Great quality, great performance. It's not redundant. It brings a nice, refreshing kind of facelift to the DNA, and in the cooler months, it's very versatile. Next up, one that is pretty much impossible to get discounted unless you're on, like, you know, Facebook groups or something, but no discounter is going to have this one below retail. If they do, they're probably not selling authentic products, because if they were, they would get sued. So this is Chanel Allure Homme Edition Blanche. So many in the line, you know, you can go with the original Allure, amazing. To me, it's worth smelling as well. Sport and Sport Eau Extreme are fantastic as well, and Eau Extreme especially caught a really pretty solid hype wave, and I guess this one kind of did too. They all really have been pretty popular. But this is one that I like for the kind of season that we're in the upcoming summer season. On those days where maybe it's a summer evening, cooler summer day, whatever it may be, I think this one's a perfect fit on just the normal warm spring days where it's not crazy hot, but it isn't cold either. Another great fit. It's got lemon, vanilla, some tonka bean, a little bit of bergamot in here. This is all about the like creamy, orangey lemon type of smell that this one gives off with that sweetness. It smells amazing, kind of gets compared to a lemon meringue pie. So it's your summer gourmand, essentially, is how I look at this one. Generally, gourmands are going to be best suitable in the cooler months, but this is one that you can kind of sneak into your rotation when it's warm outside, and it really does fit those summer days. Next up, LALIQUE ENCRE Noir, just the original one here. You got to have this one. It's super affordable. You can get this one for around $20, maybe $25. It's got vetiver, cypress, and cashmere wood. Sometimes I think you can get this one in rack stores. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know for sure, but it's one that you can get most places for a good price, and it is worth checking out for sure. You know, LALIQUE has a lot of great offerings, and the entire ENCRE Noir lineup brings a whole bunch to the table for a very small investment. This is all about the vetiver. It's a earthy, kind of dark, sweet, slightly smoky vetiver. It's not super soapy like a gray vetiver or something along those lines by Tom Ford. It's kind of going in the other direction there. The cypress gives off a nice woody undertone as well. Cashmere wood gives it a little bit of a modern feel. That's a very popular aroma chemical. And this stuff is great. You know, it's easy to wear. It's very masculine. It's more traditional. You know, this doesn't meet the standards of what's being put out today. But for the price, this one really does smell great, and you hear it talked about quite often. Most people at least know it, but you should at least smell it. Next up, we have Ralph's Club Parfum Edition. So this one's got lavender, apple, and sage in here. If I had to choose between the Eau de Parfum and the Parfum, I would take this one, the Parfum. I think this one's a little bit more well-rounded, a little bit more rich, a little bit more interesting. That's not to say that I don't like the Eau de Parfum and I don't think it's good or something. I do still like it a lot. Think it's a great scent, a little bit more affordable right now. But if you're going to be spending the money, personally, I would say toss in a little bit more and grab the Parfum first up. Just go to that next level. I don't think you're going to regret it. You know, I think this one adds a little bit more to the DNA to make it a little bit more of a fun wearing experience, I would prefer wearing this one over the Eau de Parfum. I get a little bit better performance out of it. I like the way it kind of projects and leaves a nice trail. And this stuff is mass pleasing to the core. I mean, this sage, lavender, kind of aromatic, but also slightly sweet, appley DNA is very popular. Kind of think of something along the lines of a Eau de Parfum. Somewhat, it's kind of in that similar genre. And so you know it's going to be very versatile. It's going to smell great to everyone around you. And I like this one. It's a little bit more put together and a little bit more grown up than the Y fragrances to me. So I think this one really fits in well. Next up, let's go with Parfums de Marly Greenly. So this is going to be one of their fresher offerings, and I think this is another one that's good for this time of year right now. It's got apple, bergamot, and oak moss in here. So I would say this and Sedley are two of my favorite warm weather Parfums de Marly's. Percival is also really good. It's a little bit more musky though and less bright like this and Sedley. Sedley's focusing a lot on like the bergamot and the grapefruit and the other citruses. This one is heavy on the apple. It's a really nice green apple note though, and kind of where this name is coming from. And also the oak moss, very prominent as well, giving it kind of a masculine, musky, woody type of feeling. Also kind of gives it a little bit of a green smell. Oftentimes, a lot of the big popular green fragrances that you see are using a good heavy dose of oak moss, and that's no exception here. So I think this one is really nice for springtime because it kind of has that smell of everything coming back to life, you know, everything thawing out, the sun being out. Very fresh, it's wearable, it's a big compliment getter, it's a good performer as well. It's one you should definitely check out. Very unique stuff. Bulgari Man Wood Neroli. Really am a big fan of this one. I think of the all the flankers, you know, at least the ones that are in production, this is one of the better ones. It's all about the woods, the neroli, the orange blossom, things of that nature. Not going to be too much of a surprise there. Has a little bit of a sugary sweetness as well, which I like a lot. Kind of gives it a little bit of a different texture. Has this kind of crushed up neroli leaves, petitgrain type of smell. Kind of a similar smell and texture that John Varvatos Artisan Pure has. If you're familiar with that one, you'll know and kind of, you know, remember that very distinct texture and smell. And this has a little bit of that going on as well, which I really like. I think it makes these stand out, and it makes this one ultimately perfect for springtime. Now you can get this one for a pretty good price on discounters. I think it's going to be in the $60 range or so, upper 50s, lower 60s. Testers are a way that you can go because you don't have to worry about a cap scenario. Really nice one to have around if you like neroli. Prada Luna Rossa Sport. Now this one has always been a little bit intriguing because it's not what you would think of when you think of a sport scent. You know, when I think of a sport fragrance, I think of a very fresh, citrusy, musky scent, you know, something that you could wear when it's super hot outside. This is not really that. To me, it's really weird. I gotta be honest. It's quite bizarre. However, it does smell great. So this sport fragrance features vanilla, lavender, and tonka bean. So a little bit of a fresh aromatic lavender, but it's heavily taken over by the vanilla, by the tonka, and things of that nature. Gives it a dustiness, a sweetness, a creaminess. It's not what you would expect. But with that being said, it's still a really nice, pleasant scent. And if you put the whole sport thing aside and just, you know, talk about how this smells and you wear it for what it is, it's a really nice one for just cool temperatures, mid-range temperatures. I think spring and fall, perfect time to pull this one off. It's pretty versatile in those times as well. It's a people pleaser. It's a good performer. It's really nice. And, you know, at one point this was pretty well talked about. Anymore, you don't hear much about it, but to me, it's still kind of a staple in the fragrance community and worth at least trying. And this last one is definitely one that has made a statement. Love it or hate it. It has been talked about a ton. You know, people know it. You will know it just by the bottle. I mean, these bottles are very unique. They're completely custom presentation, which, you know, you get from a lot of big designer brands, but not all, you know, and some bottles can kind of look similar from, you know, 10 feet away or something. These stand out, you know what they are, and there's nothing else out there like it. And it's very sad to see that almost all of these are impossible to get now. They had a huge line of all of these fragrances, and they're pretty much all discontinued now. It sucks. It really does, because they had something cool going. We have Mugler, Angelman. This is just the original. Pure Malt, Pure Havane, Ultra Zest, Crypto Mint, Pure Coffee, Pure Wood, so many more. I don't have all of them. I'm not even really close to having all of them. I wish I did, but I don't. This one is really good, though. It's all about the coffee, the patchouli. There's some leather, some tonka bean, vanilla. You could probably throw a dart at a bunch of fragrance notes on the wall, and whatever you hit will likely be in here. Like if you look at the note breakdown, it's massive. There's a ton going on. Caramel as well, I think. But ultimately, guys, coffee patchouli, sweet, a little bit smoky, not a ton, chocolatey, earthy kind of. So interesting, so unique, but so good. It's a different take on a gourmand. I think it smells amazing. Even this one is a little bit tough to get sometimes. At retail, it's been sold out for a long time. Pops up on discounters with relative consistency, so it's not a huge deal. I send out an email every time it does, so you can still have a pretty good chance of getting this one. But when it comes to the others, Pure Malt, Pure Havane, things of that nature, good luck. If you can get any of those for a good price, do it without thinking twice, but it is tough. Definitely one to check out right here. Nice one that you can wear in the wintertime. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. 10 fragrances that I personally think every guy should smell at least one time. If you're going to hear these talked about, you want to be able to know what they smell like so you're not feeling left out when you're hearing them talked about all over the place. And chances are, you smell any of these, maybe all of these, you'll really like it. You'll fall in love with it, and you'll end up getting a bottle sooner rather than later. And if you do, I've got some links for you down below. If you are trying to find some of these that are a little bit hard to get, or just fragrances that are a little bit hard to get in general that weren't featured in this video, first link down below, mailing list. I promise I will get you hooked up, and it's going to be a great resource to you. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.